It's so that we can make it accessible to everyone. If you were unable to join the meeting live or you want to access this meeting later, it'll be uploaded on the Arch YouTube page. And just a special note, we do not admit AI companions into this meeting. Because we record meetings, we do that work for you. And as a matter of course, we just want to have the opportunity to redact anything if necessary to protect confidentiality, or if somebody later says, I brought this up, but I'm uncomfortable with it being recorded, then we can go ahead and do that redacting. So today we have guest speaker Dr. Amy Fontenot of Lafayette Parish School System's Homeless Education Services, who's going to be offering the latest data and other important information. In April, we're going to have Jency Olivier from Hearts of Hope here to discuss the services that they offer, activities during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the intersection of the unhoused, homeless service providers, and SA. And in May, we're going to have Tanya Thompson and Dana Bordelon with the Alexandria VA healthcare system, under whose umbrella Acadiana falls for veteran homelessness services. So really, really excited about the content over the next several months. Some of you have been able to be here when some of those speakers have participated in the past. So if you've found that you have follow-up questions that haven't been able to be answered, go ahead and jot them down over the next couple of months so that they're ready when they're able to join us. So I wanted to begin today by acknowledging the passing of Angela Patterson. She is Unity of New Orleans Deputy Director, or was Unity of New Orleans Deputy Director. She passed away earlier this month. She was a powerhouse. She was a beacon during and in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. As the levees broke, she was inside the Superdome. She had volunteered to stay and care for individuals with disabilities. She also led the Abandoned Buildings Outreach Team, which spent more than 6 years post-Katrina searching thousands of abandoned buildings for unhoused individuals and placing them in permanent supportive housing. She was a fierce advocate before Congress, and she secured 3,000 permanent supportive housing vouchers for the most vulnerable survivors of Katrina and Rita across our state. And that established the nation's largest permanent supportive housing program for people with disabilities. And that program continues today, and she will be missed. The federal environment continues to be highly uncertain, and changes to our work to end homelessness have been happening at a rapid pace. This, of course, includes language in executive orders, the withdrawal of HUD technical assistance, some of whom live in our community, reductions in the federal budget, and the elimination of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. Other reports indicate that there may be significant layoffs at HUD coming, including the possible closure of field offices across the country. Last month, we talked about the fiscal year 2024 COC program grants. Again, that's the funding that we apply for in 2024. That's why it's referred to as the 2024 COC program grants. And then we spend that money for the most part in the following year, in 2025. The update there is that grant agreements, which started to be released to funding recipients last week, were pulled back in some cases. So they received that grant agreement, and then those grant agreements were withdrawn. But it's our understanding that HUD is issuing renewal grant agreements based on the timing of the operating start dates. So depending on when those programs begin is the order in which we're receiving those renewal grant agreements. But again, as we know more, we'll certainly keep you abreast. On March 6th, HUD issued a notice that they will be releasing all remaining emergency housing vouchers, EHVs, for those of you who work in this space. That's the funding for it, will be released in late April. stating that this payment would be made with the exception that no additional funding from HUD will be forthcoming. So this final payment, HUD said, should be enough to cover rent payments for the remainder of 2025 and well into 2026. But just a note that this is in stark contrast to the payment's original sunset date of 2030. So that's 4 years earlier than we had anticipated. So as of March 19th, there are nearly 60,000 people who will be at risk of becoming homeless once this funding is exhausted, years earlier than we originally anticipated. And we have people in our community, certainly across our state, who are living in their spaces with the assistance of emergency housing vouchers. While we wait for clarifications and for more developments, if you feel so inclined, reach out to your members of Congress, let them know of the impact of these delays and changes on our community specifically. It's really a great opportunity for some public education opportunities around how this affects Acadiana specifically. And if you need additional information or talking points or coordination, please feel free to reach out with any questions. My email is on the screen, elsa@archacadiana.org. I think most of you have my cell phone or already have my email address. But please do not hesitate, even if it's like, hey, I just need some language here. What do I say? Or, data points that you think would be helpful for the perspective that you want to share. Also, the National Low-Income Housing Coalition has released the 2025 GAP report. That uses 2023 data, just to be clear, and that evaluates our shortage across the nation and by state of available housing stock. I'm going to drop right now this link in the chat for you all. Try that again. There you go. It illuminates for us at a state level, and this is different than the out of reach report that the National Low Income Housing Coalition does each year, that actually breaks it down all the way to parish. This does keep this information at the state level, but it shows that there are approximately 42 affordable and available rental homes per 100 extremely low income renter households. So less than half of the number of rental homes that are needed, that are affordable and available for those who are extremely low income renter households. So it's a very competitive market for property owners and managers. And it also illuminates that 73% of extremely low income renter households are severely cost burdened. So 73%. And what severely cost burdened means is that those households are spending more than half of their income on housing. And so 3/4 of extremely low income renter households are severely cost burdened. So please download that data, dig into the data. It's very helpful in your advocacy efforts, whatever that angle is, and communicating the needs of our community. So please, and again, that's the GAP report, but there's also the out of reach report that we go over each year when it's released. But both of those touch points and those reports are really helpful in the work that I think all of us do. A reminder to put May 1st on your calendars now. We'll be co-hosting the first Louisiana Homelessness and Housing Justice Action Day at the state capitol from 1:30 to 3:30. In partnership with Unity of Greater New Orleans and the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness. I know I've said Unity a couple times. Just to clarify, Unity is the lead agency for the for Orleans Parish and Jefferson parishes, that is equivalent to the lead agency work that Arch does. Of course, they offer direct services and they are, of course, much larger. But it's comparable. So we'll be doing that in partnership with Unity and with the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness. So again, May 1st, 1:30 to 3:30. There's going to be more information forthcoming. But we want to make sure that you get it on your calendars right now. We'll also be coordinating some carpooling efforts because we need as many voices there as possible. And there's no need for each person to take their car if we can put 4 or 5 people in a car and go together. I do see Jenny put an update in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. But of course, in a second, there'll be an opportunity to expound. LCG is planning activities for National Community Development Week, which is April 21st through the 25th. The activities will be an opportunity to highlight how HUD, CDBG, and home funds positively impact Lafayette. And it's so important that everyone understands that. They said that they would love to include partnership organizations that want to be part of the activities, and she's going to be reaching out to some of us individually soon. I see that Rachel is on the call, Rachel Hayden. Rachel, do you want to speak at all to any needs that Share House has currently? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Here we go. There she is.
Sorry, y'all caught me eating a salad. So if I have any greenery in my teeth, just, don't pay any attention to that. Yeah, so right now at the Share House, we could use some pots. We're pretty low on pots, cooking utensils, plates, bowls, and mattresses and box springs. So we have been keeping up with the demand, but just barely. So definitely mattresses and box springs. If anybody has any that are any good, we would definitely love to receive them.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. And a reminder that, I see at least in the neighborhoods that I belong to on social media, the neighborhood groups, before you put it at the curb, give us a call, because once it rains, that mattress and that box spring is really rendered unusable. So let's help make sure they don't go into the landfills and they are given to people who really desperately need them. And of course, those kitchen items, as you do spring cleaning, think about us when you're trying to figure out what to do with those items. I do want to, before we move on to updates across the community, I did want to lift up the incredible work that I get to see every day from those of you who work in this space, from homeless service providers to housing advocates, to community organizers, to those of you in the healthcare system, educators, the people in the faith space, workforce development. Every day I'm seeing more and more true collaborations. And Audre Lorde had a great quote that said that in order to work together, we do not have to become a mix of indistinguishable particles resembling a vat of homogenized chocolate milk. She says that unity implies the coming together of elements which are, to begin with, varied and diverse in their particular natures. And so I see these people coming from different perspectives, from different approaches to the work, and we're really becoming more and more willing to say, hey, how do we work together? How do we collaborate, especially in the changing times that we are living in? And next month, I'm going to be sharing some of those particular collaborations that I get to be witness to and a part of, and the early wins that we've already seen. So as you hear all of these things, I'm sharing data points that are not necessarily uplifting. Please know that in our community, we are being, I think, uniquely collaborative more and more each day. So to that end, who else has perhaps an update, maybe an event that's coming up? Are you starting any new programs, any advocacy opportunities? Maybe you have some vacancies. Just go ahead and take yourself off mute and join. Okay, we did a really robust update last month, And we're trying to really focus on that quarterly. But in the meantime, if you do have any updates or anything that you want to share and get it into an Arch newsletter or something of that nature, please feel free to give me that information, and I'd be happy to include it and make sure that it's getting out to as wide an audience as possible. So without further ado, I want to welcome Amy Fontenot, Dr. Amy Fontenot. In addition to her work with LPSS, I have been privileged to work with her. She served on our allocations committee for Arch for several years, and she's currently our board of directors vice president. I know you're about to learn so much, so thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Elsa, are you able to put up just the two documents that I sent to you just so that everybody could take a look while I'm speaking? If not, it's not a problem.
You're on mute, Elsa.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, Amy, I'll go ahead and work on that as you start to speak.
Great. Okay, great. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm the homeless liaison for the Lafayette Parish School System. My team is currently at training this week, so I'm coming to you from the hotel room, snuck out of a session so that I could be here with you today. But I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do, because I constantly hear from others, man, I wish I would have known the school system had that. So first and foremost, we are under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act that is federally mandated through Congress, and it states that any public school system who receives federal money, so Title I, Title II, anything like that, that school system is required to provide services for students experiencing homelessness. So that does not mean private schools, but that does mean public charters. So any public funded agency is required to provide services for students experiencing homelessness. So McKinney-Vento, you will hear that tons of times while I'm speaking, but that's the federal mandate that we are under. Great. So our little brief flyer is on the screen so that you can kind of follow along if you're able to see and understand. This is very informal, so please feel free to ask questions at any time. This is just a brief overview. So McKinney-Vento says that their actual definition says that any individual who is lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. So every situation that comes to us, that's what we have to start with. Are they lacking fixed, regular, and adequate? And all three of those, myself and my team members, I have 8 staff members that work with me in homeless for the school system. We have to figure out what is fixed, what is regular, and what is adequate. So fixed meaning, is that residence, is it mobile, meaning is it a car? Is it a camper that we're going to wheel from one spot to another? Regular meaning, is this the place that this child can go to every single night? Does the family have a key to get in there? Are they paying rent to be there? And in the adequate piece, do they have a bed? Does this child have a bed to sleep in? Are they sleeping on the floor under the dining room table? Are they sleeping on a sofa? Are they in the shed outside in the backyard? Is that where the family has been allowed to stay temporarily? So we're really having to look at all 3 legs of that definition: fixed, regular, and adequate. And then the categories that a family could qualify, it's a little bit different from HUD, as you'll see with the very first bullet. Families that are sharing housing due to loss of housing, meaning economic hardship, eviction, foreclosure, fire, natural disaster, any of those reasons. So a family in my program can qualify if mom and dad, or mom and children, or dad and children, if they've lost their residence due to eviction, foreclosure, and they're having to move in with grandparents, aunt, uncle, neighbors down the street, anything temporarily. So they're not on the street, anything like that, but they did lose housing due to economic hardship. So under McKinney-Vento, they do fit the criteria of a family experiencing homelessness. families living in hotels, motels. It says trailer parks, but it doesn't mean that you're in a trailer facility. It means a camp, RV that we parked in a spot. Maybe it's a family of 7 that are staying in a little small travel trailer. That would be considered substandard housing, inadequate housing, clearly. Families in emergency and transitional shelters. Primary nighttime residents not ordinarily used as sleeping accommodations. We've had a couple of students that were sleeping on park benches that we would get notifications from concerned citizens that would see children day after day sitting on the same bench with a backpack at their feet, and they would contact someone, and that's how it would get to us so that we could provide some assistance. The outdoor shed example, I have absolutely had a couple of families. That's where they were able to stay when they lost housing, was in somebody's backyard shed without lights, air, running water, anything like that. Clearly, that's not meant for sleeping arrangements. And then those families living in cars, public spaces, abandoned buildings. And that substandard housing piece also is a big deal right now. So if half of the roof is missing off of your residence, you're still staying there, but just maybe in a different part of the residence because it's raining into your residence, that family would qualify for us under McKinney-Vento. If your electricity has been turned off because you could not afford to pay, maybe you had to choose between paying rent or keeping the lights on or water, and so all of that has been turned off, that family would qualify under McKinney-Vento for our assistance. So it's a little bit broader category of families who actually qualify under McKinney-Vento. And we'll talk about those numbers in just a few minutes of what that has looked like for us for this school year, but also for the previous 2 school years, just to kind of give you a frame of reference of what we're talking about. The next part of the flyer underneath, what does that referral process look like? How do we find out about families? I hear that question all the time. First and foremost, we do have a very good relationship with all of the housing providers, most of them that are on this call right now, and other agencies that provide services in our community. And when they come across a family, for whatever reason, if it's because of emergency food or a faith-based organization, anything like that, they will usually contact the school system to try to find out what can help, what's available to a family that might need something like that. So oftentimes it's that word of mouth reaching out to us. Also, when a family presents at the local school trying to register, and those required documents become an issue, like a utility bill that's required to register, and it's got to be a utility bill in your name and a current one. And depending on what school zone you're in, sometimes it's 2 consecutive utility bills that are needed. So that usually presents as a red flag that maybe this family is in a different situation. So the school staff will refer to us. We do extensive training with our school counselors, our social workers, front office staff, and all school level personnel. That's cafeteria managers and workers, front office staff, teachers, bus drivers, you name it. We do annual training with them to make sure, not that we want them to question families, because I want privacy and confidentiality respected at all times, but to know what those flags are, to at least shut down the questioning and badgering and put them in touch with us so that we can take it from there. My staff will assist with what's necessary. McKinney-Vento does require immediate enrollment into school. That looks a little different. There's not a definition of what immediate means. Does that mean 24 hours? Does it mean within 1 hour? It's not that clear. It just says immediate enrollment. We need to do what's in the best interest of that student. So for a family that does not have transportation that needs to meet with us, we will pay for cabs. And I'll talk about that at the bottom of the flyer in the blue section. But one of the big things that our program is able to do through our grant funding is to provide that excess transportation. So on any given day, I have cabs running all over the city, getting families to our office so they can meet with us. We provide all of the uniforms, everything the student needs from head to toe to not only enter the school, but to be successful in school. So that's all of the school supplies. That's a belt, coat, socks, hygiene products, a hat, a jacket, everything they could possibly need. Tennis shoes, when it's difficult with tennis shoes because we don't know what sizes will walk through the door. So sometimes we run out of certain sizes and it takes a good bit of 45 days to get a new shipment in and things like that. So we try to provide tennis shoes. That goes very, very quickly. But we have some amazing partners in our community, many that are on this call today. I was able to see several of them. that step up for us with things like holiday support, with Christmas gifts. That is a big deal for a child who is just moving all over the place and things are not going well. At one of the sessions here at our training this morning, it was talking about the amount of bags that a child might carry onto their, literally and figuratively speaking, but onto their back each day, just needing to find a safe place to eat breakfast and where there's air. And just a place that they can lay their head on the desktop for a minute and not have to look over their shoulder for safety. That's a big deal for a 5-year-old that adults have trouble dealing with. And the presenter this morning was asking us in session, what are you doing for that child? Because the state says, and the federal government says, they have to perform to state standards like every other housed child and every other child who has perfect scenarios and all of these other things at home. What are you doing for that child that has 15 bags on their back this morning, needing food and rest and all of those things before they can even learn literacy and math and critical thinking? We joke, but it's honestly true. We have to Maslow before we can bloom. The educational system is so focused on Bloom's taxonomy because that's what we want. We want everybody to be at their highest critical thinking, but unfortunately, we have to take care of basic needs before we can even worry about the critical thinking part that needs to happen in the classroom and then in their everyday life. So while it doesn't seem important to some that we provide emergency snack bags to a kid that's going to need food today or when they go home tonight, making sure they have a backpack with emergency snacks, or making sure that we have mental health services that we are providing not only during the school day for the kids in my program, but also with an agency in our community that I have a contract with to make sure they're getting supplemental mental health services to make sure I'm getting that body in the seat every day. Otherwise, we can't get to Blooms if we can't get the butt in the seat. And we say that all the time because I need to increase seat time before we can worry about the academic outcomes. So many of those things, trying to figure out where do we put them if they're sleeping in a car. I've had 2 high school students this year where the principal called me, 2 different high schools, and the principal called me and said, Amy, this is the first time we found out our custodian saw a kid sleeping in his Jeep in the field next to the school. What do we do? And so we had to get the kid on the phone, went to the school to meet with him to figure out what is going on, where is the family, just the whole situation. And as you all know, children's shelters are just not common. It's very difficult of what to do with the kid, 16-year-old who's been put out for whatever reason, parents incarcerated, deceased, in rehab, had a stroke and is in ICU. There is no family around. It's a difficult task of what to do with this kid, because obviously we're the education system. We want education to be priority. And it is a priority, but what do we do to make sure that they're safe and they can actually be here every day and focus on what's going on in the classroom? So we've had some unusual situations this year like that, but thankfully without hurricanes, it has been a little bit better, a little bit more manageable, even though the numbers are extremely high. But that helps, and so many partner agencies, like I said, on this call, even so many of my friends on here that I see, that I literally can text and call at the drop of a hat, and they are on it to try to figure out where to put this family, at least temporarily, because my families are not the cardboard sign holding under the bridge. That is not where a mom and her children will be, because they're so fearful of DCFS coming to take their kids. So we have to work very strategically with our families to get them, just like all of you, to get them to trust us, to be honest with what's happening so that we can figure out how to address it. The right side box, the little gray colored box, that's my list. That's the 9 staff members. Harmony Decker on our list tomorrow is her last day with us. She's moving to a different agency, so there will only be 8 of us moving forward, but everybody else on here is in our program, can be reached at any time for any question. We tell families all the time, I don't know if I'll be the answer for you, our department, but we will certainly put you in touch of who could be your answer. So while we might not be the final stop for a family, we will absolutely get them in touch with whoever might be able to provide whatever they're looking for. And then the bottom part of the flyer, the blue box, and I've kind of alluded to some of this already, these are some of the services that we provide. Now, again, we need that caveat, kind of like Elsa said at the beginning of the call. We are 100% federally funded. I write a grant every 3 years. through the federal government. In fact, one of our sessions this morning was talking about our grant that is going to be coming up in February that we have to rewrite for the next 3 years. But everything is federally funded, 100%. None of our funding, so anything that you hear me talk about that you see on here, nothing is provided through local funds, through our MFP or sales tax or anything that we get from the State Department, from our local school system, nothing. This is all 100% federally funded. So that is very important to remember, because whatever is going to go on in Washington and all of those kinds of things in Congress will absolutely impact us, because that is where our funding lies. As of our last update last week, we were told we believe that we are secured for another year at the same level of funding that we received last school year. So we believe, at least as of today, that we are up and running at least for the 25-26 school year, which starts July 1. Obviously, everything is moving lightning speed, so that could change at any time. We are going to get some more information from the feds this afternoon in one of our sessions, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more guidance. But so for now, up until this point, and hopefully moving forward, this blue box gives you just a little bit of summary of what do we do. Obviously, that immediate school enrollment, getting those school resources. So while that is the initial thing, getting the kid in, and that means transportation, everything from head to toe, getting all of those tangible things in place so this baby can be in school tomorrow morning. That is always our goal, number one. But there's so much beyond that that has to happen to make sure of that successful piece and that access piece. So right now, as of this year, I think it's changing next year, but all students in the Lafayette Parish School System did have free breakfast and lunch as part of that community eligibility provision, CEP. So we don't know yet if the next school year, if we're going to still be continuing into that, but at least as of right now, all students eat free breakfast and lunch. For any student in the McKinney-Vento program, as well as foster care program, that categorically qualifies them for free lunch in any school year, not even depending on the CEP provision. That's just categorically approved for free lunch, for free meals at the school site. The ongoing transportation needs, I alluded to that just a little bit earlier. We spent a lot of time with the cab company, bus passes, getting our kids where they need to be, because part of McKinney-Vento says if a student was attending, let's say, Woodvale Elementary, just off of Johnson Street, they had a house there, they were housed, they lost the house due to economic situation, and now they live in Youngsville. McKinney-Vento says, when at all possible, and in conjunction with the parents' wishes, we have to let that child remain in school of origin. Well, clearly there's not a bus from Youngsville that's going to come all the way to Woodvale. So we have to make magic and do all kinds of things we don't like to talk about, but we have to do what we need to do to make sure that that transportation is arranged. Sometimes it's cab service twice a day. Sometimes it is getting out of zone buses that I have to pay for as additional routes. Sometimes I'm begging and pleading with every caregiver and auntie and nanny and parent down the street to be able to arrange transportation in the morning and the afternoon. Now, if the parent chooses and says, no, I want them to go to wherever we're currently staying, then absolutely we're able to do so. But when at all possible, we keep the kid in school of origin, which right now, due to 35 days left of school or something crazy like that, we would not want a child to have to transfer this late in the school year and then potentially have to move again at the start of the school year if they're going to relocate for housing. So we try really hard to keep them in their school of origin when at all possible, but that ongoing transportation need never ends. And so we dedicate quite a bit of budget to that. We do cover, at this time, we do cover all school instructional fees. So that is, English language arts fee, math fee, science, welding, field trip fees, chorus, band, anything that this child needs to be able to fully participate on that school campus. We want them engaged and successful. That's how we're going to keep them in school and reduce that dropout rate and try to increase those outcomes for that student. So any of those types of things. And as one example, one of my high school students was participating in the ROTC program on his campus, and he was selected as one of, I don't know, maybe 200 cadets from across the United States to attend something in Pensacola I don't know if it was an award ceremony, a training opportunity, some sort of something like that. And we agreed to go ahead and fund his trip to be able to go. And it was just a fee because the rest, they were provided housing on the naval base and all that kind of stuff in a dorm. So it was just the fee to get there, but on a bus type of thing. But those are the kinds of opportunities, because that's what's going to open up doors for our children to make sure that they have that, keep coming to school first and foremost, that they don't give up, they are finding success, but then also looking at what could be available to them in the future. They have options, they have chances, they have choices. And so we really do some strategic and intentional planning with our funds every year, with staff, with stakeholders in the community, with families, with lived experience, asking what would have been better, what could we do more of? And these are the types of things that our families are telling us, that when their kids are able to be part of the school community, the kid wants to continue to go, the parent feels comfortable that the kid is getting a great experience. So that is one thing that we really feel strongly about. We also are focused quite a bit on early childhood programming. So for a family that has a 3-year-old and below that qualifies because they have children also in the school system, or if the family applied for child care assistance or CCAP directly through the state website, those get referred to us as well, so that I can make sure, number one, do they qualify under McKinney-Vento? And if they do, we make sure to get them priority seating into whatever daycare, Head Start, Prime Time, whatever facility they're able to get into, they get priority seating. They do not have to go onto a waiting list like everyone else who's applying for child care assistance. So that is a big deal for families under McKinney-Vento. We also work with just about every agency on this call with making referrals and always housing, lots of medical, lots of parenting, emergency food, clothing vouchers. Miss Rachel, we're always looking for furniture for families that are finally getting housed. Just tons and tons of referrals. We make sure to connect our families with those agencies. And again, the community partners, same thing. We have a couple of faith-based organizations that help us tremendously with holiday support. Just as an example, this past Christmas, it was well over 350 students in my program that were able to have Christmas gifts due to 2 or 3 agencies that are on this call today. We could not do that. That would not be allowable under our grant funds, but these agencies have partnered with us, have stepped up with us, and they make sure that our kids are getting this. The same agencies, as well as others, are also helping to provide snacks and things and for our families, emergency things, hygiene products. When we have family events, we had one this past Saturday, and I think we had 14 families that came out to do some activities with us, and a couple of agencies were able to provide some meals and snacks and hygiene products. Our families left loaded down with just all kinds of goodies, just really, really good support for us, as well as letting us know when we partner with them. They also let us know about, hey, we were in a conversation with this other agency and they said they could help with getting a car seat for one of your kids, or different things like that. So we find out so much connection and network through other partner agencies, which have been very, very helpful. I mentioned several times already about the mental health support. With my grant funding, I have brought on 3 social workers that work specifically with our students in the McKinney-Vento program. They provide in-school support, which we are very, very proud of. We do have school social workers, and our school district has 1 social worker for every 2 schools. When my students need something, I consider it a 911. And so my kids can't wait till the day that the social worker might be at the school. So in meeting with our directors and advocating with our upper administration, they agreed that this was what was in the best interest of our students. And so we went from 1 social worker to 3, and they have really full loads getting with our kids in the hopes of keeping them from going into a situation where they're being expelled due to behavior issues. Our social workers are able to go in at the first sign of trouble, whether it's truancy issues, are behavior issues, academic issues. We are able to jump in immediately within the first 4 weeks that we see a problem surface so that we can figure out, get the parent or the caregiver on the phone, go out, meet with the student, and start providing some services in the hopes to keep that kid from moving on to expulsion, alternative settings, out of school suspensions. That is never in a student's best interest, especially my McKinney-Vento students, to be suspended for multiple days. That means they don't have access to food, to the support services that we have. We want them in school at all cost. So mental health support is one of my top priorities. The educational support, my team does a check every 4 weeks for academics, discipline, and for attendance. And so we are able to check very, very quickly. We're able to identify what's going on with the kid. We meet as a team, do a big problem solving, divide and conquer to figure out what we're going to do so that we see progress by the next 4 weeks. We don't want to wait till the first report card after 9 weeks to know that something is wrong. As part of that educational support, I've also put as a priority over the last few years an extended summer program. Some summers it's 2 weeks, some summers it's 3 weeks, for my kids to get some enrichment experiences. This summer, we have 9 camps that we have partnered with. The first 2 weeks of June, we're able to provide the meals, everything that's needed, the transportation, just some really great enrichment activities, and hopefully to enrich. And so when my students go back to school in August and that teacher asks, what did y'all do over the summer? Let's write a paragraph about what we did and share. My babies have something to write about and share about just like everybody else, rather than they didn't go anyplace. They don't have anything to talk about. I don't want anything else to signal them out. I want them to be able to feel and share just like everybody else. And then the last thing in our blue box, which is pretty big, all of my seniors. So this year, right now, I think I have 38 seniors. That number kind of fluctuates a little bit, but I think we're around 38 or 40 seniors right now. And we're looking at post-secondary for them. So, we make sure their FAFSA is done, make sure that they are applying for everything they possibly want if they want to move on to a 2-year, 4-year, if they're looking for careers. We have a career in college expo that is going to be happening on June 16th. For my students particularly, all of my middle and high school students are being invited to this, transported, everything that you can possibly imagine, because we want them understanding about college and career pathways. We want businesses there. If the kids are going to be learning about different career trees, what if I want this kind of industry, what's available to hit the ground running in terms of an apprenticeship or things like that. If I don't have an interest in going to post-secondary, if I want to go to a 2-year, what kind of certifications do I need? What would be the entrance requirements? If I want to do 4-year masters beyond, what would be the requirements for that? What are their earning potentials? All of those kinds of things. And so we have that scheduled for June 16th, but we do lots of post-secondary support for those seniors and really juniors too, because I have several graduating juniors, to make sure what is their plan once they're gone, because then they are no longer able to be under me. McKinney-Vento does have, and it's not really McKinney-Vento, but Schoolhouse Connection, one of our advocacy groups, they do have some point of contacts. I think they call them SPOCs, school point of contact or something like that, on certain college campuses around the country, where a McKinney-Vento student that's transitioning into college has someone they can check in with. Many schools, UL is one of them, they have, food pantries and things like that. So there are places on a campus for students to go and continue to get support. I don't know everything that the campuses have, but there are things that they can do. The financial aid departments contact me constantly so they can get the verification forms for the unaccompanied youth that are coming through, because they don't have parent income and all that kind of stuff to be able to document. So we're able to provide some support for that. That's basically what we do in a nutshell. The next slide will show you just what our numbers, the first column, the 24-25 school year, this is where we are currently. The middle column was last year, and then the right column is the year prior. So you can see us just at, this year and the 2 years prior. The top set of boxes, that's our categories. So those that are in shelters, those that are doubled up, sometimes tripled up, those unsheltered, those in hotel, motel, and unaccompanied youth. So as of March 11th, now obviously these numbers have already gone up over the last week or two. We're just under 1,100 right now, but on March 11th, we were at 1,019 that we identified as McKinney-Vento eligible for this school year. And we had about 300 that were not eligible for McKinney-Vento. So just under 1,500 students that have come through trying to get assistance for us, but just over 1,000 that did qualify. And you can see those numbers. What did that trend look like from the previous 2 years? And keep in mind, this year, the numbers are just through March 11th. The previous 2 years, that was through June 30th. That was an entire school year. So understand that when you're comparing the numbers. So this year, as of March 11th, we have serviced 224 students that were living in shelters here in Lafayette. As of March, the year prior, it was 220 total for the entire school year. And then the year prior to that, it was 141 total for the entire school year. So you can see we have already surpassed that. And as you know, shelters are just consistently at capacity. And so they are all coming through us, going very, very well, real smoothly. You can see what the double numbers look like. That is typically our biggest category in a school year. Doubled up, our unsheltered, that number, we are so thankful, is starting to come down. And that's really due to a couple of agencies on this call, because when we find a family or that is brought to us that is in an unsheltered situation, we send out our 911 to 2 people immediately, and almost without fail, they are able to get them into something quickly, even if it's an emergency situation, so that we can move forward with making sure that this kid is in a school that we can send a bus to, just all of those kinds of things. So we've been focusing on trying to get that number down. Hotel motel is a little bit down as of right now, but I think it's going to surpass that before we hit the end of the school year. And those unaccompanied youth, that is a pretty special population. That is a student who is not with a legal parent or guardian, but it has to be due to a McKinney-Vento situation. So it can't be a situation where mama is a traveling nurse, so she's going to put the kid with grandpa for him to watch. That kid does not qualify under McKinney-Vento. It has to be a situation where the family lost housing, parent is incarcerated, the kid has nowhere else to go. It has to be that type of economic. It can't be an arranged situation due to my job. I work offshore, so I'm going to put my child with the nanny for the 3 weeks that I'm out of town. It can't be job related like that. It has to be due to loss of housing. The bottom set of boxes, again, same 3 years, current year and the previous 2 years. This is just a different breakdown to show you the age ranges of the kids that we're servicing right now. So our birth through 3 years old, that is continuing to skyrocket. That is all of the child care assistance kids that are either being identified through my own staff here in Lafayette, or we're receiving the referrals directly from the Louisiana Department of Education when a family goes online and applies and checks off there in the Lafayette region and currently experiencing homelessness. They get an automatic referral to my office, and we have to identify whether they qualify under McKinney-Vento, because remember what I said, if they are McKinney-Vento eligible, they get priority seating. They don't have to go to the waiting list, which is fairly long. My seniors, that 9th through 12th grade, you can kind of see the parentheses is how many seniors we have. We have a couple of those that have moved out of parish and are no longer with me. So I think I'm right at 40 right now. Feeling really good about those 40. I think they're going to make it. We're working on graduation plans with them right now of how to transition them to whatever it is, whether it's military, technical school, career, different things getting ready to happen. The unknown means that was a family who did not complete registration with us. They were gone before we could complete and get ages and grade levels and those kinds of things. So this is just kind of giving you just what does it look like over the last few years. I know that's a lot of information. Any questions at this time?
You can go ahead and take yourself off mute or drop them in the chat. Amy, I had a question. When we're looking at the pre-K through 5th grade, we see those numbers sort of balloon.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
That's all. I mean, that's just typically most families, it's little children, it's the young, it's the elementary. That's just where we seem to have most of our kids. And that I don't know why, but that is always the biggest category. All of the littles. I don't really know why. I don't really know why, but that is definitely, without a doubt, the largest number of kids that we serve.
I just, as we know, homelessness is one of the adverse childhood experiences, an ACE, if you will.
Yes.
And so we know that homeless kids often become homeless adults. And so I thank you so much for helping to interrupt this cycle. How can other organizations or how can the general public, do they reach out to you directly? Also, can we share these two flyers in a newsletter?
Absolutely. Oftentimes it's usually word of mouth. Without fail, someone will call and say, hey, my youth group is looking for a service project. I saw y'all on the website. Is there something that y'all need? That's the call that I get mostly. Yes, without a doubt, contacting us is the best way because we do have partners that are consistently providing things. So we have one agency, they provide bottled water. They send us a pallet of bottled water at the start of every school year so that we can give out to families as they're coming through. We have an agency that provides socks for us. So the best thing for anybody, any agency, if they're trying to find out how they can get involved, how they can plug in, contacting anybody on my staff would be the best option. Harmony Decker normally was the one who handled those kinds of things. So we'll be kind of divvying that out for the next few weeks. But yes, anybody on my staff, they can contact us. We can let you know where those needs are. We have some sororities that contact us asking, I want to do something for the teenagers at this school, for the girls at this school, for the guys at this school. What can we do? So some of them do gas cards and food cards and just different things like that. So if there's a particular school that an agency, maybe it's near their shelter or it's near their office, if they would like to do some support at one particular place, we can do that. We can kind of get that arranged as well. So really reaching out to us would be the best option. Yes, our numbers can be published. I mean, this is all public knowledge. We're a public entity, yes, all of that can be shared. Our brochure, this little flyer, I call it a cheat sheet, but this cheat sheet can absolutely be shared as well. Like I said, the one caveat is the blue box might change. Depending on what's going to happen by June 30th, we just don't know what those services might be. So I wouldn't want to ever promise a family, this is what we're going to do for you next year when I don't know for a fact that I can. Yes, up until now, we've been able to, and I am very, very hopeful that we will be able to continue to do some of this. So hopefully that answers your question.
Amy, Clancy asked, do you need menstrual supplies? Is that something that you all take care of?
We do have partners with the Period Project. We are able to get some things for our kids. We also have a partner with the diaper bank, so we're able to get those kinds of things. Diapers and wipes have been a big deal lately, trying to get those things for our littles. Because most people don't realize that we're also servicing the whole family. It's not just school-age kids. But yes, Clancy, that's a great, because that is a big deal for our girls. This past summer camp, we had some interesting times for that. But yes, so we do have some partners that are helping take care of that for us.
Is it better then to direct our donations to those organizations and then you pull as you need, or do we do direct donations to you?
It can be either one. I want to support the agencies that support us. So I would love to see, them to continue to get the services so that we're able to continue calling on them. And mostly because we don't have the storage capacity to have volumes and bulk items and all of those kinds of things. I literally have two. One was a kitchen that was able to be gutted, and we have shelves that we were able to put, that's where we're storing things. And we have one larger conference room. Those are our two storage facilities. That's all that we have in our current building, which is fine. It's perfectly fine, but we can't hold bulk. We just cannot have that there. So it's almost better to support the agencies in the community that are able to do those kinds of things. I don't want to name drop, but several are on this call. they are the ones that come when we call, they come running with the things, the snacks and the water and all the things that we need, hygiene products, just everything, hats and gloves and just all kinds of stuff. So yes, absolutely. So we can continue going to them because we just don't have the storage capacity.
Okay, thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Amy, you might have said this already. This is Linda Peters.
Hi.
You servicing Acadiana, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Lafayette Parish.
Lafayette Parish. Okay. I have access to diapers at times, and I want do the people you service, would they be able to come on any specific day if I was to host a community baby shower on your site?
Oh, absolutely. Just keeping in mind that transportation is usually an issue for my families. So
Right.
it would just have to be something that we know about. So perhaps I could arrange cabs and things like that for my families to get there. But yes, if we knew in advance, I think my families would be very, very excited for something like that.
Okay, I'm going to email you. All right, Amy?
Perfect.
Okay.
That sounds great. Thank
All
you.
right.
Amelia, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, you mentioned high school seniors who are transitioning, some of them to college. And I wondered if you have any relationship with or coordinate with the career closet at UL or the pantry at UL, because I know they provide support as well.
They do. I have been in touch with them a little bit as in their development phase when they were trying to figure out what does the school system do so they could try to mirror some of that and make sure that there was a smooth transition for kids. I do not coordinate much of what they do, but in the beginning, only in their planning phase. So my students, I'm able to, once they're leaving, I'm able to give them the contact information of who to call, where to go, what to do, and kind of lead them in that direction. And then they're able to make those contacts. Now, whether they do or not, that I don't know.
Sure.
But that, yes, that's about the extent of the coordination that I have with them.
I happened to go over there recently, and they have a pretty good supply of staple foods, dry goods, non-perishable items, and lots of clothing, especially if someone's going on a job interview or, any of that, but even everyday clothing. So just think it might be worth it to follow up with them too.
Great idea. Thank you.
I will say also that SLCC and UL are increasingly, I think that they're seeing those numbers go up of unhoused students. And so, that's one of those collaborations that I was talking about earlier, as far as, everybody's got to be at the table, I think, at this point.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Clancy says, I know the campus cupboard requires a UL ID card, but I expect the career closet receives more clothes than they can store.
Yeah.
And clothes can get out of hand really, really fast. So you got to focus on the people who really know how to do it. Okay, well, it is 1:02.
Yes.
Amy, it is such an honor to share this workspace with you, honestly. And thank you so much for doing this while you're in the middle of a conference. Thank you to everybody for joining today. Please feel free to reach out to me, elsa@archacadiana.org, with any questions or concerns. The next meeting is April 24th at noon. Again, we have Hearts of Hope at that meeting. I'm going to be sharing these flyers that Amy shared today. That's chock full of so much information. I know she's so approachable. Call her staff, and see how you can plug in. But Amy, again, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who's doing this hard work. Have a great rest of the day.